The day my sister-in-law slapped me across the face in front of my daughters was the day 18 years of silence finally ended. And I promise you that silence had cost her a lot more than she ever knew. But let me back up, because if I start at the slap, you'll miss everything that made it matter. My name is Derek Coleman. I'm 50 years old. I live in the Briar Creek neighborhood of Raleigh, North Carolina. I own a cybersecurity consulting firm off Six Forks Road, 14 full-time employees, 4 major corporate contracts, and a reputation that took me 16 years to build out of absolutely nothing. I coach my younger daughter's rec league basketball team on Saturday mornings. By any honest measure, my life is a good one, and at the center of it is Renata. Renata Coleman, 44, sharp as a tack, laughs with her whole body, makes the best shrimp and grits you've ever had in your life. We've been married 18 years, and I mean married, not coexisting, not tolerating each other. Actually, genuinely, embarrassingly in love. The kind that makes our friends roll their eyes when we walk into a room together. Then there are my girls. Maya is 13. Serious, precise, already correcting my grammar mid-sentence. Zoe is 9, pure chaos wrapped in 2 French braids, and the funniest human being I have ever met in my life. Renata and I adopted both of them together, after we spent the first 6 years of our marriage trying everything else first. Renata has a condition that made carrying a pregnancy impossible. We grieved that quietly, privately, and then we made a decision. We chose our daughters on purpose. Every single day since, I choose them on purpose. I need you to understand that before we get to anything else. Now, Denise Ashworth. Denise is Renata's older sister, 47, lives out in the Wake Forest area with her hands full raising 3 boys. The older 2, Cole and Nathaniel, are out of the house now, but Eli's still home, 13 years old. Denise is married to a guy named Corey. For a long time, Corey was the golden boy of the family, doing well in commercial insurance, driving the flashy truck, treating every room like he was the smartest guy in it. About 4 years ago, Corey got caught up in a licensing violation at his agency. Lost his position, and word travels fast in that industry. Nobody would touch him after that. He's been hustling independent policies ever since, and things haven't been the same. He carries the anxious energy of a man who peaked a decade ago, and is drowning trying to hide it. And Denise, God bless her, has never liked me. Not from day one. When I met Renata, I was 33 and broke in the specific, embarrassing way. Not homeless broke, but asking your girlfriend to cover the check broke. Building a business on credit cards and stubbornness. Renata had a steady job, a decent condo, and a family that decided I wasn't good enough for her before I'd even opened my mouth. Denise led that committee. She never said it outright. People like Denise never do. It was in the way she looked at me across a dinner table. The way she talked to Renata like I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. The polite little questions that were actually weapons. "So, Derek, is the business still finding its footing?" said with a smile that made you feel like you were supposed to thank her for asking. I made a decision back then that I held to for 18 years. I wasn't going to fight Denise. Wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a scene. I loved Renata too much to make her choose between family peace and her husband's pride. So I stepped back, way back. I was pleasant at gatherings, present. I stayed out of Denise's orbit and let Renata manage her own sister. And it worked, mostly. What Denise never knew, never bothered to find out, because she'd already decided I was nobody, was that the business eventually did very well. Better than well. While she was still treating me like the charity case her sister had dragged home. I was signing contracts that would have made her eyes water. So when Denise and Corey hit financial trouble a few years back, a mortgage shortfall, Eli's private school tuition getting away from them, they went to Renata. Of course they did, and Renata came to me. "Baby, I know it's a lot to ask, boss." "Yeah, just handle it," I told her. "Take it from our account. Give it to them. Let's keep the peace." I know how that sounds. I knew how it looked too. Renata handed her sister money out of a joint account Denise assumed was mostly Renata's. I let her keep thinking that. It was easier than the conversation we'd have had otherwise. So Denise kept believing her little sister was her financial lifeline, and kept believing that Renata's husband was just some quiet guy who tagged along to holidays. That arrangement ran longer than I care to admit. Mortgage shortfalls, tuition installments, a couple of emergencies that Corey would call Renata about directly, never me, never Derek, because in Denise's version of the world I was furniture. Expensive furniture, as it turned out, but furniture all the same. The Sunday everything cracked open started like every other Sunday in June in Raleigh. Loud and humid before 10 a.m. The cookout was at Renata and Denise's mom's place out in Wake Forest. A big old house with a wraparound porch and a backyard big enough for a badminton net nobody ever used. The smell of pulled pork was coming off the smoker before we'd even gotten out of the car. Somebody had a speaker going. Kids were everywhere. I was in a good mood. Genuinely, I'd closed a major contract the week before. The girls had been sweet all morning. Renata was wearing this green sundress that made me feel like I was 33 again, minus the broke part. I had zero reason to expect anything but a normal Sunday. I grabbed a plate of ribs and wandered toward the back, where a few of the guys were arguing about whether the Panthers had any shot this season. I had opinions. I shared them. Life was good. I didn't even notice Denise watching me from across the yard. I noticed Zoe first. She came running around the side of the house, and I knew before she even reached me that something was wrong. 9-year-old girls running at their dads at a cookout are either showing you something exciting or something is very wrong. The look on Zoe's face wasn't exciting. I set my plate down and caught her. Hey, what's wrong? What happened? She was crying. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind kids do when they're genuinely hurt and trying to hold it together. That kind is worse. It took me a minute to get it out of her. Then she told me what Eli had said, standing right in front of Maya and two of their cousins, clear as day off. You're basically charity cases. My mom says your real parents didn't even want you. You don't actually belong in this family. Says something shifted in my chest. I want to be precise about what I felt, because it wasn't just anger. It was colder and quieter than that. It was the feeling of a man who'd absorbed 1,000 small insults over 18 years, watching those same insults land square on his 9-year-old daughter's face. I kissed Zoe's forehead, told her to stay with her mom. Then I walked over to where Eli was standing near the fence with a couple other kids. I didn't yell, didn't grab him. I put one arm gently around Zoe, who'd followed me despite what I'd told her, and rested a calm hand on Eli's shoulder so he'd look at me instead of his friends. Hey, I said, look at me. He looked up. These girls carry my name. They belong here just like everybody else. Don't you ever say that again. That was it. That was all I said. I don't know what Denise saw from across that yard. I don't know what version of events assembled itself in her head in the 3 seconds between spotting me and reaching us. But what happened next took the entire backyard from loud to silent in under 2 seconds. She grabbed Eli away from me so hard he stumbled. Then she turned and slapped me, open palm, hard enough that I heard it before I felt it. The yard went dead quiet. Don't you dare touch my son, you pathetic excuse for a man. Her voice was shaking, not with fear, with fury. You're not even a real father anyway. You just adopted them because you couldn't give my sister a real family. I touched my cheek. Before I could even process the sting, Renata was moving. She didn't freeze. She rushed straight into the space between us, face pale with shock and rage, pushing past her sister. Denise, what is wrong with you? Renata's voice was trembling, but fierce. What did you just do that for? In front of my children. Denise didn't even look at her. Kept her wild eyes locked on me. I took a slow breath, gently pulled Renata behind my shoulder, and looked at Denise. I am giving you exactly 10 seconds to get out of my sight, I said, voice dead calm, before I call the police and have them remove you from your mother's property in handcuffs. That's when Corey materialized with his beer, stepping between us to shield her, chest puffed out. Whoa. Derek, let's not do anything crazy here, man. Relax, she's just being a protective mother. You put your hands on our kid first. Don't make this a whole thing. It's a family matter. I looked at Corey for a long moment. The speaker was still playing somewhere. A kid laughed at something on the far side of the yard, completely unaware of what had just happened over here. I smiled. Since you brought it up, I said quietly, let's talk about what a real father actually does. I turned to my daughters. Girls, get your things. Renata was already moving toward me. And I want you to stay right here, because what happened in the 2 weeks after we walked off that property? That's when everything Denise Ashworth thought she knew about her life started coming apart. Some people don't realize they've been living on borrowed grace until the grace runs out. And by then, the bill's already due. We pulled out of that driveway in complete silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, not two people mid-fight waiting for the other to go first. This was the silence of a family that had just taken a hit and needed a minute to breathe before figuring out what came next. Maya stared out the back window. Zoe had her head on her sister's shoulder, eyes closed. Renata sat with her hands folded in her lap, very still, the way she gets when she's feeling something too big to talk about yet. I kept both hands on the wheel, drove south on Capitol Boulevard back toward Brier Creek. The Raleigh skyline sat low and gold in the distance, completely indifferent to the fact that my face was still stinging. I didn't say anything about what I was going to do. Not yet. We got home. I grilled the girls some chicken and rice, because life continues, and 9 and 13-year-olds need dinner regardless of what their aunt did at a cookout. We sat at the kitchen table, the four of us. Zoe ate like nothing had happened, because she was 9 and chicken is chicken. Maya was quiet, which meant she was processing. That's what Maya does. After the girls were in bed, Renata found me in the kitchen. She leaned against the counter, looked at me with those eyes that have always read me like a lease agreement. "You okay?" "I'm fine. Derek, I'm fine. I promise." She was quiet a second. "I'm so sorry. I should have said more. I should have. You didn't do anything wrong. I know it's okay. It's not okay." Her voice cracked just slightly on the last word. "She said that in front of our daughters, Derek. She called you not a real." She stopped herself. I walked over and held her a minute. Just held her. Then I went to my home office, opened the laptop, and pulled up the bank portal. I want to be clear about something. What I did next wasn't rage. It wasn't petty. It wasn't a tantrum because my feelings got hurt at a cookout. It was a decision made by a man who just watched his 9-year-old daughter cry because of words that came straight out of his sister-in-law's mouth. Words Eli hadn't invented. Words he'd heard at home. I pulled up every recurring transfer connected to Denise and Corey's accounts. The monthly mortgage assistance. The tuition installments for Eli's private school out in Cary. The occasional emergency transfers that had stopped feeling like emergencies about 2 years back. I canceled every single one, all of them gone. I closed the laptop, went to bed, and slept better than I had in months. The first week was quiet on their end. No calls, no texts, nothing. I figured Denise was too proud to reach out and too angry to think straight. Corey was probably telling her it would blow over, that Derek would cool off, that Renata would smooth it over like she always did. They probably poured themselves drinks and decided to wait it out. I went to work. Coached Zoe's Saturday game at the rec center on Skycrest. Took Maya to the used bookstore downtown because she'd been hunting a specific novel for 3 weeks. Sunday, I smoked a pork shoulder in the backyard for 6 hours and didn't think about Denise Ashworth once. It was the second week when the dominoes started falling. I know because Renata started getting texts, then calls. The calls got longer, and I could tell by the way Renata's jaw tightened during them that Denise's tone was shifting from cold to something more frantic. I didn't ask for details. Renata would tell me when she was ready. On a Tuesday, about 2 weeks after the cookout, Renata came home from meeting a friend for lunch over on Glenwood South, and she had a look on her face I hadn't seen in a long time. Not sad. Not angry. Done. Denise was there, she said, setting her keys on the counter. I looked up from my laptop. At the restaurant. Showed up unannounced, sat down across from me. She pulled out a bar stool, sat slowly, like she was setting something heavy on the floor. She went on for 10 minutes. About you. About how you're being childish, punishing her whole family because your pride got bruised over. She called it. A little family disagreement. A little family disagreement. The woman assaulted me in front of 30 people and half a dozen children. She said her mortgage payment is late. Renata continued. The school sent Eli's family a final notice on tuition, and apparently Corey told her it's your fault, that you set them up to fail. I said nothing. She asked me why I was letting my deadbeat husband ruin their lives. The kitchen was very quiet. "What did you say?" I asked. Renata was still a moment, and I watched something move across her face, something I can only describe as 18 years of patience reaching its absolute limit, a dam that had held everything it was built to hold, and then held some more, and was now finally, quietly letting go. "I told her the truth," she said. I straightened slightly. "All of it, Derek." Her eyes were steady. "No tears, just clarity." She needed to hear it. I'm done protecting her from it. We moved out to the back porch that evening, 2 glasses of sweet tea sitting untouched between us. I hadn't been at that lunch, but as the cicadas started up, Renata walked me through every word she'd handed her sister. When Denise had finished her performance, the sighing, the guilt tripping, the don't you care about family, Renata had looked across the table and said plainly, "Vaz, it was never my money." Denise blinked. "What?" "Every dollar, every single dollar that kept your lights on and paid Eli's tuition and covered your mortgage. That was Derek's money, not mine. He told me to let you think it was me. He didn't want the drama. He was protecting me from having to sit through your reaction to the truth. Silence. If the husband you called not a real father at a backyard cookout, in front of his children, he has been quietly funding your life for years, while you look down on him, while you let your son repeat whatever poison you say about him at home, straight to our daughters' faces. That was him paying for it. Ceste Denise apparently opened her mouth. Renata didn't let her get there. And, while we're on the subject of real fathers, you want to go there? We adopted because I can't have children, my body, my condition, my limitation. Derek has spent 10 years letting this whole family quietly assume it was somehow his fault, because he knew exactly how you'd treat me if you knew the truth. He protected my dignity from people exactly like you, Denise. Never said a word. Not to you, not to anyone. He is twice the man your husband will ever be. Say, when Renata got to that part of the story, sitting on our back porch, she stopped talking for a second. I didn't say anything either. I looked out at the yard where my daughters had been running around an hour earlier, and I felt something I genuinely hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just the particular weight of being truly known by somebody, of hearing your wife look the people who dismissed you dead in the eye and tell them, you never saw him at all. Was she crying? I asked eventually. Renata took a sip of tea, but the end. I didn't wait around to watch. I nodded. We sat there a while longer. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Zoe had left her basketball in the middle of the yard again. Normal life, continuing. But here's what I knew that Renata hadn't mentioned at that lunch table, because Renata didn't know it yet. The same day she had that conversation with her sister, I'd made 2 phone calls. The first was to my attorney, a sharp woman named Patris, who's handled my business contracts for 9 years and has a voice that makes insurance adjusters nervous. I told her what happened at the cookout. Told her I had 3 longtime family friends standing right there, stone sober, who'd already agreed to written statements. I asked her to move forward. She didn't hesitate. I'll contact the DA's office today. The second call was to the bank. When Corey and Denise's mortgage hit a restructuring agreement 2 years back, the lender required a co-signer to qualify for the modified terms. Corey had come to Renata. Renata had come to me. I signed on because, say it with me, I loved my wife and wanted to keep the peace. Well, peace had officially been canceled. I called the lender holding their mortgage modification. Corey had lost his licensing 4 years back and had concealed his true income status from the bank during the restructure. Using my credit as a shield, I informed the bank's risk department that as a co-signer, I was formally reporting a material, concealed change in the primary borrower's employment. I dropped a stack of documentation on their desk. The representative on the phone went terrifyingly quiet. Just fax process timeline. They'd be defaulting the modification by Monday. That's all it was on my end to. Fax, process, timeline. I hung up, went back to my desk, and finished the compliance report I'd been working on before the call. We had a client presentation Thursday, and I don't let personal situations bleed into professional ones. That's a discipline I built a long time ago, back when I was 33 and broke, and everybody was watching to see if I'd fail. I didn't fail then. Wasn't about to start now. Q, here's what I want you to understand about the 2 weeks after that cookout in Wake Forest. Nothing I did was dramatic. Nothing was loud. No scenes. No confrontations, no angry texts at midnight, no showing up anywhere I wasn't supposed to be. I went to work. I came home. I helped Maya with her homework. I watched Zoe's games and yelled encouragement from the sideline like always. I cooked dinner 4 nights out of 7 because I genuinely enjoy it and Renata works hard. I was just living my life. But underneath the surface, every decision I'd made was moving the way water moves. Quiet, steady, with absolute certainty about where it was going. Denise and Corey just didn't know it yet. That changed when Corey called. Thursday evening I was in the driveway washing the truck when my phone buzzed. A number I recognized. I almost didn't answer. Then I decided, why not? Kurek. A pause. The specific pause of a man who'd rehearsed this call and already forgotten his lines. Hey, look, Denise and I were thinking maybe we should sit down. Talk this through. Clear the air, somewhere neutral. Nice restaurant. Our treat. I almost laughed. Literally almost laughed, standing in my driveway on a Thursday evening in Raleigh, North Carolina. Sure, Corey, I said. Let's sit down. Another pause. He sounded relieved, which told me everything I needed to know about what he thought this meeting was going to be. Great, man. Saturday work. There's a place out on the lake. The Cliffside Grill. Great view. Saturday's fine. Awesome. We'll get a reservation. Hey, and Derek, listen. We're really looking forward to clearing this up. Okay, we're family. Family. I ran my cleaning cloth across the hood of the truck. See you Saturday, Corey, I said and hung up. I stood there a moment. The June evening was warm, the neighborhood doing its usual quiet thing. Sprinklers somewhere, a car passing, a wind chime going. They thought they were coming to negotiate. They had no idea they were walking into a closing statement. There's a specific kind of calm that settles over a man who's already made every decision that matters and is simply waiting for everyone else in the room to catch up. That's exactly where I was Saturday evening. The Cliffside Grill sat on a bluff above Falls Lake, outdoor terrace seating, the kind of view good enough to make bad company almost tolerable. Almost. Smart choice by Corey's standards, which told me Denise had actually picked it. Renata and I got there first. We always do. I don't like walking into rooms where other people are already settled and comfortable. We took a table on the upper terrace, ordered waters, watched the sun start its slow drop over the lake, turning everything copper and gold. Renata was quiet on the drive over. Not the broken kind of quiet, the resolved kind. She'd spent 2 weeks processing all of it, the cookout, the lunch, 18 years before either of those. She'd come out the other side of it with her jaw set in a way I recognized. The jaw of a woman who'd made her own decisions. I reached across the table, held her hand. She squeezed back without looking up from the menu. Good enough for me. Denise and Corey arrived 12 minutes late. Corey wore a button down clearly ironed for the occasion, which for Corey is the equivalent of showing up in a tux. Denise had her hair done, purse clutched with both hands like a shield. They'd rehearsed this. I could tell immediately. That slightly, too, composed energy of people who'd practiced their lines in the car. Corey went for the handshake first. Firm. 2 pumps, eye contact the whole production. Derek, good to see you. Man, he turned to Renata. Renata nodded once. The temperature at the table dropped about 4 degrees. Denise slid into the chair across from me, gave me the specific smile of someone who needs something from you and hates that fact with every cell in her body. Derek. Dennis. We ordered. The waiter was cheerful, completely unaware he was serving what amounted to a sentencing hearing with a lake view. Corey got a beer, of course. Denise ordered white wine. Renata got the trout. I ordered the ribeye, because I was genuinely hungry and saw no reason to let the occasion ruin my appetite. We made about 4 minutes of small talk about the weather and I-540 traffic before Corey cleared his throat and decided it was time. He squared his shoulders, leaned in, hands folded, the picture of reasonable sincerity. Look, man, we know things got heated that Sunday. Denise shouldn't have. What happened shouldn't have happened. Okay? We apologize for that. He glanced at Denise, who nodded right on cue like they'd choreographed it. But you've got to understand she was stressed. She saw you grab Eli's arm and she reacted. She's a mother, you know. And honestly, he paused here for effect, cutting off the kid's tuition over a family argument. That's a bit extreme, don't you think? Kind of feels like you're punishing the whole family because your pride got hurt. Another pause. Then the line I could tell he'd been saving. Honestly, man, it almost feels like you set us up to look bad. He sat back. Denise nodded along slowly, wine glass stem turning between her fingers. There it was. The full performance. Half apology, pivot to justification, land on the implication that I was actually the problem. Classic. I let the silence sit. Picked up my water glass, took a slow sip, set it back down exactly where it had been. Then I smiled. The same smile from that backyard in Wake Forest. Corey, you didn't invite me here to apologize. He blinked. What? No, man. We genuinely. You invited me here because your mortgage is due. I kept my eyes on him, calm as a boardroom. You're not sorry Denise assaulted me. You're sorry I'm the one holding the checkbook. A dead silence. The table beside us erupted in laughter about something. A birthday, balloons, a completely different universe. Denise's wine glass stopped rotating. Now hang on. Corey started. I'm not finished. I said it quietly. No edge, no heat, just a statement of fact. Corey, to his credit, or maybe just his instinct for self-preservation, stopped talking. I looked at Denise directly. For the first time in 18 years, I wasn't stepping back, wasn't managing the temperature, wasn't protecting anybody's feelings at the expense of my own. You stood in front of 30 people, including my daughters, and told me I wasn't a real father. Said I gave those girls a charity home because I couldn't give your sister a real family. I paused. I want us to be sure we're remembering the same moment before I go on. Denise opened her mouth. Don't, Renata said. One word quiet as a closed door. Denise closed her mouth. You've believed for 18 years that I was nobody, that Renata carried this family. That I was furniture that came along when your sister walked through the door. I tilted my head slightly. I let you believe that. That's on me. I thought I was keeping the peace. What I was actually doing was financing a version of reality that was comfortable for you and invisible to me. That ends tonight. Corey shifted in his seat. The rehearsed composure was starting to crack at the edges. The police report's been filed, I said. Corey's beer paused halfway to his mouth. The district attorney's office is reviewing it. Assault charges, Denise. Not a family dispute, not a heated moment. What you did at that cookout was a crime, regardless of the story you told yourself about why. I folded my hands on the table. I've got 3 longtime family friends who were standing right there, already providing written statements. What I don't have is any interest in pretending this was a misunderstanding. Denise's face had gone the color of the tablecloth. Derek. Her voice had completely lost the practice tone from 10 minutes earlier. This was the real one. Smaller, tighter. Derek, look, I know I went too far, I know that. But criminal charges. We're family. You told my 9-year-old daughter her real parents didn't want her. I said, without raising my voice, without flinching. Said it to a child, through your son. Then you crossed a yard and hit me in front of her. I let that land. So I need you to understand something, Denise. This isn't about family politics anymore. The copper evening light was doing beautiful things over the lake. A boat moved slowly across the water far below us. Corey set his beer down. Okay. Derek, I hear you. The charges, all right, that's serious, we get it. But can we talk about the financial stuff? The mortgage, Eli's school. Those are real consequences for our kid. He didn't do anything. Eli repeated what he heard at home, I said. Those are your consequences and yours alone. But the co-sign is done. I reached into my jacket, placed a single folded document on the table, slid it across to Corey. That's the formal notification from my attorney. When you concealed your license revocation from the lender during the restructure, Corey, you committed loan fraud. I reported it to their risk department last Tuesday. My name's officially cleared of the liability, and the bank has revoked the modified terms, effective immediately. The acceleration notice follows separately. Should arrive Monday if it hasn't already. Corey unfolded it with hands that weren't entirely steady. I watched the color leave his face in real time, like somebody had pulled a plug somewhere. The foreclosure process starts whenever the bank initiates it, I said. That timeline's between you and your lender. I'm no longer part of that conversation. You can't. Corey looked up. You can't just, we have a kid in that house. You have a kid in that house, I said, which is exactly the kind of thing a real father thinks about before the damage is done, not after. That one landed exactly where it was supposed to. Denise made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Her eyes had gone glassy. The wine sat untouched now. The monthly transfers are canceled. The tuition assistance is canceled. Every financial arrangement between our households existed because I loved my wife enough to keep the peace at my own expense. That arrangement required basic respect as its foundation. I looked at her steadily. You demolished that foundation in about 30 seconds at a backyard cookout. Derek, please. Her voice broke. Actually broke. The performance, the composure, the entitlement, all of it gone. What was underneath was just a woman staring down consequences she never genuinely believed would arrive. Please, I'm asking you. I'll apologize formally, publicly, whatever you want. I'll call the DA myself. Derek, our house! And here's the part I want you to pay attention to, because I felt something in that moment that surprised me. Not satisfaction exactly. Not the sharp, hot feeling of victory. Something quieter. The feeling of a door finally closing on a room you'd been trapped inside for a very long time. I looked at my sister-in-law, really looked at her, and felt nothing that required me to be cruel. I'd said everything that needed saying, clearly, calmly, with receipts. I stood up, buttoned my jacket. I spent 18 years protecting your feelings, I said. That's over now. From this point forward, I'm only protecting my own family, my wife, my daughters, who belong in every single room they walk into. I picked up my phone off the table. Good luck with the bank, and good luck paying for dinner. I extended my hand to Renata. She took it without a moment's hesitation, picked up her purse, rose to her full height in that way she does when she's completely certain about something. Denise reached out, touched her arm. Renata, please just... Renata looked at her sister's hand on her arm, then at Denise. I love you, she said simply. But I'm done managing what you refuse to take responsibility for. She stepped away from the table. We walked through the restaurant together, past a birthday party with balloons, past the cheerful waiter who called out, "Have a great night," and out into the warm Raleigh evening. The valet brought the truck around. I tipped him. We got in. I pulled out of the lot and headed back down the hill. Renata was quiet about 2 minutes. Then she said, "Good luck paying for dinner," and started laughing. Not the polite kind. The real kind. Full-bodied. The kind I fell in love with 21 years ago in a coffee shop off Hillsborough Street. When she was 23 and I was the broke guy at the next table asking if he could borrow her phone charger. I started laughing too. We laughed for about a mile before either of us said another word. Here's what happened after the DA's office moved forward. Denise accepted a plea, formal assault charge, community service, a restraining order keeping her at a set distance from me and the girls for 14 months. She signed it. No trial, no public spectacle. Just paperwork and consequences. The bank initiated foreclosure 6 weeks after that dinner. Corey found a smaller rental out in Garner, about 25 minutes from where they'd been living. Eli switched from private school to the local public middle school. From what Renata's heard through other family, he's doing fine. Actually, about 3 months after that cookout, Eli sent Maya and Zoe a handwritten note. Renata showed it to me. He apologized, not the way his father had apologized at that restaurant, performing, calculating, angling for a return. He apologized the way 13-year-olds apologize when somebody has actually gotten through to them. Clumsy, sincere, real. I kept that note. It reminded me the boy wasn't the villain. He was just a kid handed the wrong script by the adults in his life. Maybe someone finally handed him a better one. I didn't gloat. Not once. Not to other family, not on the phone, not in a single text. That's not what this was ever about. It was never about breaking Denise. It was about stopping her. Zoe asked me one evening about a month later, while I was helping her glue a diorama together at the kitchen table. She looked up out of nowhere and said, "Daddy, are we a real family?" I set down the glue stick. "Come here," I said. She climbed into my lap. 9 years old, still small enough to do that. I held her the way I've held her since the day we brought her home. "We are the realest family I know," I told her. "You understand me." She thought about it for a second with that serious little face she makes. "Yeah," she said. "Okay." Then she climbed back down and went straight back to her diorama. "Yeah, okay." In 18 years of silence, 18 years of stepping back, writing checks, keeping the peace, staying in the background of a family that never bothered to look closely enough to see who was actually holding everything together. And in the end, all it took was one slap, one smile, and the quiet, unhurried decision of a man who finally stopped protecting the wrong people. My name is Derek Coleman. I'm 50 years old. I live in Briar Creek, Raleigh, North Carolina, and every single person under my roof carries my name on purpose. That's what a real father does.